Hello friends, this is Shelley from Koala Knits and Knacks. Thank you so much for clicking on my tutorial and for spending this time with me as we make this cute little chicken. We are going to use our 31 peg loom as well as our 12 peg loom, and I used Bernat Premium yarn in the gray and in the yellow, and I think that the red was Red Heart Super Saver or Craft Smart, not sure. I just had a little bit left in my drawer and that's what I used. And so friends, once you have your supplies ready, we're going to get started on this cute little thing, and I hope you enjoy the process. Please don't forget to show me in my Facebook group. I'd love to see your finished projects. And if you're posting in other groups, please also always add the link. Oh, that would just mean a lot to me if you would do that, so people can find the video as well. So once you have your supplies ready, we're going to get going. But again, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe button below this video if you haven't done so already. That's also something that I would really appreciate you doing. So take care, friends, and let's get started. All right, friends, we're going to start. I have my 31 peg loom. I've got my little boy tool here that I use to, this little thing attaches onto the back there, that I use to cast on. I'm going to hook that little shepherd's hook part around and pop it into the top of that hook, of that tool, and bring it through. I got this at Michael's, but I've seen them at Walmart, and I know that you can get them on Amazon as well. And we're going to begin our project by putting our slip knot onto our yarn and onto our anchor peg, just to hold it in place, just like that. Put that into the center. We're going to do an E-wrap cast on. Now, I don't like to use this tool for the cast on, but I use it for all my other rows after that. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do the E-wrap cast on. Behind and in front, behind and in front, behind and in front, behind and in front, all the way around. Now this little thing is going to be annoying because it's going to be moving all around, but here we go. Let's just get it out of the way. And we're going to just E-wrap our pegs just like that. This is a 31 peg loom. I'm going to go all the way around, and when I get to the last peg, I'll see you back. All right, so having made it all the way around, I'm going to now go ahead and I'm going to push down those loops all the way around my loom, making sure that I don't let go of that last peg, and have it all unravel on me. And then we're going to do that one more time right above those bottom loops. We're going to go around one more time. This is the E-wrap cast on. There we go. I've E-wrapped all 31 pegs. I'm going to now put that between peg 1 and 2 and just hold it with my fingers like that, just to secure it, so then I can then knit off the bottom loops over the top loops of the last peg. That will hold my yarn tail in place, and then I can go ahead and drop it, and we're going to do that all the way around the loom. Bottom loop over the top. And this is our E-wrap cast on. I don't count this row in my project row counts. We will start that right after we finish our cast on. I'm going to go ahead and do that all the way around. Having made it all the way around, we can now say we've cast on. We are going to then push down our loops. And this is where this beautiful tool comes into place. I just love this thing. I can set this down, grab my little tool here. I'm going to pull my yarn through. And then we're going to E-wrap our first row. So behind and in front, behind and in front, behind and in front, just like this. Behind and in front. You can use your fingers if you don't have the tool. Behind and in front, all the way around. Then if I set it down, I can just go like this. See how wonderful this is? There we go. I've made it all the way around. I'm going to put it between peg 1 and 2, which is my practice. Hold it with my fingers, and we're going to knit off peg 31. Then I can put this down, go ahead and knit off all the other pegs all the way around my loom. Doesn't matter, friends, if you pick it up from underneath like what I'm doing, or if you like to go from the top and go over like this. Whatever is better for you, whatever you prefer. And once we get them all off, I have a little trick to show you that helps you to keep your, let me just show you here, your cast on row. your first, the row between your peg 1 and peg 31 here. Oftentimes you'll have a big gaping space like that in between those two pegs, but I have a little trick that I do that helps us to keep it straight all the way down, and so you don't have that problem. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to finish this row, and then I'll show you what that little technique is, and you're going to want to do it after every row. I knit off on every peg. I'm going to then push these down just halfway, getting ready for the next row. But before we do that next row, you see where this little knot is on the peg 31? It's right between these two stitches. It's right here. So more, let me put this down, more on the left side of this peg than it is in the center or the middle. And that's why this space here is wider. You have a line that goes across, and when you have your project off your loom, you can definitely see the difference. I take my loom pick and I grab that knot and I pull it in just like that, and I do the same on this side. Grab that knot and pull it in, and that is all I do after every row, and it makes a huge difference. Now what I can do is I can go ahead, mark off on my counter row 1, because you always will get an interruption of some sort and say, okay, what row was I on? And we're going to go ahead and we're going to knit row 2. Row 2, E-wrapping and knitting off. There we go. Knitting off the last peg first so that it holds that yarn tail in place, and you can now drop it, and we're going to go around and knit off the bottom loops over the top loops on every peg. Row 2. Finishing off that last one on row 2, I'm going to push my loops halfway down. And from there, we are going to take our little knot and scooch it over to the other side, and this one as well, into the middle. We can now release our anchor peg, pop that down, and we're going to continue that on. First, we're going to mark row 2 on our counter. We're going to continue on and knit 23 rows. Our cast on row does not count. So again, you're going to E-wrap, knit off, move your knots. E-wrap, knit off, move your knots for 23 rows in total. And when you get to the last row, I will see you back. All right, we have made it around. Now you'll see there's only 3 rows there, but pretend that there are 23 rows in there, because I did my bind off and it didn't record properly. So I just made a little swatch here. Since I've already made 2 of my panels, I am going to show you how we're going to bind off after you've done 23 rows. And of course, on your last one, you want to take that little knot, move it into the center, and then on this side, move that one in. We're going to use a crochet hook for this process. I'm taking my 5mm crochet hook, but friends, use whichever one works best for you. A smaller one actually would work a little bit better, but I like the size of the loops that this one gives me. I'm going to go underneath that last peg that we just finished working. I'm going to yarn over, pull it through that loop on my hook. Then we're going to go over to the second one, and we're going to get underneath that loop, just like that. Pull it off your peg, slip stitch it through that loop that's on your hook, yarn over to chain 1. Going to the next peg, we're going to get underneath that loop, take it off your peg, slip stitch that loop through the loop that's on your hook, and chain 1. Let's do it one more time, or maybe 2 times. Underneath that loop that's on your hook, to take the loop off the hook, off the peg. There we go. We've got 2 loops on our hook. You're going to yarn over, pass that through the farthest loop. Chain 1. Underneath that next loop, And if it's tight and you can't get under there, just grab your loom pick and loosen it a little bit and it'll help you. Or you can drop your working yarn, get under there, pull that loop through the loop that's on your hook, and chain one. We're going to do that all the way around, and we're going to get a beautiful edging to work with that looks like that. Okay, friends, so let's keep doing. I'll do one more with you, and then I'll set you free, and you'll go ahead and you will get it done yourself. You're going to go underneath that stitch, pull it off, work it through the loop that's on your hook, chain one. Actually, if you hold it between your fingers like this, your tail like that, it's out of the way and it's easier. I haven't done that before. It's just a new thing that just came to my mind, like that and like that. Oh my goodness, you guys. Off, through the loop, chain one. Sometimes something just connects in your brain and you think, why am I doing this extra little step when I could just be trailing it a different way? And you know what? You just do it for fluke and then you realize it works. Look at that. And I guess it comes with practice and with years of doing things. Sometimes your brain just clicks and you figure out something new, and that works. Just hold it with your fingers like that, your thumb on your loom like that, and work your stitches off. And there you go. You have a beautiful finish. And you're going to keep removing your stitches just like that, getting underneath, pulling that loop through the loop that's on your hook, yarn over, and chain one. If you hold your thumb on the outside of your loom here, pass your hand underneath, hold your working yarn, your tail, with these two fingers, then they're out of the way and it actually will give you a better motion. So you can get underneath that loop, pass it through the loop on your hook, chain one. Underneath that next loop, slip stitch there, and chain one. And if you can get in that motion, slip stitch, chain one. You can actually do this pretty efficiently. Off, slip stitch, chain one. Okay, friends, so go ahead, remove all the stitches from your pegs, and I'll meet you when we get to the end. I'm at the end and I'm going to work my last one in the same manner, putting that through and chaining one. Then I'm going to pull my work through, my yarn tail through, and cut it off. And there we go. Now I'm going to just show you on the big piece. This is what it will look like. But because I started on the last peg, now I want to join the first to this last. So all I'm going to do is pick up that loop and tie off. Then I've joined that little gap and we've got a beautiful finish. And you can see here where we push that little knot in on both sides. Now we've got a close, those two rows are just as close as every other row. So that little technique makes a huge, huge difference. So there you go, friends. You're going to make 2 of these. Here's my other one. Aren't they nice? I love them. So go ahead, make 2 of them. You're going to do an E-wrap cast on. You're going to E-wrap and knit off 23 rows. And then you're going to do your crochet cast off just like what I just showed you. All right, friends, have fun. And I'll see you when you have both of them done. Taking our pieces, we're going to go to the beginning of our work. And you'll see all these bigger loops. We're going to tighten them to make them a little bit less obvious like that. We want them to be a little bit tighter. So if we look at our yarn tail, I already did that one. So if we look at our yarn tail, we pull it here, our loops are going this way. So we're going to start over here on the other side so that we can come around and end where our yarn tail is. So I'm going to pull up on this first loop, and then you'll see where this loop ends here. Let me just grab something here. You'll see this bar that goes across. That's the next one that you want to grab. So you're going to take it and you're just going to grab it and go like that. Then when you lift it up, you'll see here it is, this next loop. You're going to just grab it and you're going to tighten it just very carefully. Okay. lift it up so that you can see where the next bar is, and you're going to tighten it. And every time you do that, your loop is going to get a little bit bigger. And we're going to go all the way around, just snugging it up and having a nicer finish there until we get to the other side. And if you forget, is it this loop or is it this loop or is it this loop, just lift up your little piece here, and it's the one that's right underneath that bar. That's the next one that you take. Right here. And right here. See how much slack we're getting out of that edging? And pull up on it. Isn't this just so satisfying, you guys? Like, this part is just so relaxing. I love to do it. You know, this might be a good time to tell you why I actually make 2 tubes for this project, because I'm sure some of you are yelling at the screen and saying, Shelley, why are you making 2 tubes and sewing them together when you can make your chicken out of 1 tube? And that would be a very good question. And here is my answer to that. It's because I love the look of an E-wrap stitch more than any of the other stitches, like the flat knit or the U-wrap. And in this particular stitch, because it's a bigger stitch, you can see through it to see the stuffing. And so that is not kosher for me. I want to have a piece where you cannot see the stuffing through, and to do that, we need to make it a double layer. So that's why I'm making 2 tubes and we're sewing them together so that we have a beautiful, beautiful look when we have the filling in our project and have it all assembled. I just like to pay very close attention to that little detail. I think if you can see the stuffing through, it doesn't look nice. So that's why I do it this way. So there we go. We're almost at our yarn tail. Here's our tail. Be very careful when you get to the end. It can be a little bit tricky. And I'm going to pull that, and it's already taking my yarn tail, so I know that that's the last one, and I can pull that. And look what we've gone and done. We've just made a nicer finish, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get that done with our other piece. Then we're going to grab our sewing needle. For me, I'm using the metal wool needles, which I'll show you in just a second. And we're gonna sew up our ends and our sides. So these are metal wool needles, and they have a little plastic loop at the back that you put your yarn through. Easy to thread and just metal. They're hard. I love them. They're my favorite. They come in a set of 3, and I get them either at Walmart or on Amazon. So we're going to thread our needle. If you do not have a long enough piece to go across, 1.5 like the length of this plus another half or even 2. If yours isn't long enough for that, then you're going to want to just tie off, hide your end, and then tie on to another piece that's longer. And we're going to sew this up using these top loops that we created from our E-wrap cast on. I'm going to go into that first one and across to the other side and into, well, choose the first one. I'm going to go into there, okay? Whichever one you think looks closer. And then we're going to just to start our work. Now, this is the one that I'm coming out of on my first one. I'm going to go back into there, and I'm going to come over to this next one and come through it. Once I get a little farther, you'll see the patterning that I'm using. I'll show you in just a second. Now, this one I came out of here, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to come out that one. Let me just get this started, and when you see the patterning, you'll be able to start it easier. There's some knots there that we're working around, so that's why it's hard to see. Okay, so here's the one I'm coming out of. This one right here. So here's the next loop. I'm going to go up into that one and down into this one. It's like a Kitchener stitch, really, is what we're doing, the same patterning. Here's the one that we were working last. If you even fold those 2, you can see it looks like a mock stitch, like that and like this. You're just going to go across, pick them up. So basically you're going down and up. But if you want to make it look like a stitch, you just go straight across, and that might give you a better visual. And then we're going to pull that. When you come down to the bottom, here's the one we worked already. So we're going to go into there and then come down the next one. And back up to the top. This is the bar that we already worked. So we're going to go down and then up the next one. So down, or let's say into the middle of your work, and then to the outside, like that. And then here's the top again. Here's the stitch that we were working in. So we're going to go down into the center and then out in the other direction. Down into the center and then out. Essentially, this is the Kitchener stitch, folks. It's just done on the loops. Look at that. It's just done on the loops that we created from our cast on. Rather than these stitches here, we're using these and we're making a mock stitch. Okay, so then we're going to go back down and up. And we can look at that as though that's a stitch. You see that? And you pull and back down. And if I bend that up, that looks like a stitch, a V. I'm going to go right across. It's just another way to visualize it. Go up to the top. Here's the loop we worked previously. So I'm going to go down into my work and then up. And once you get that technique, you can just go really fast. You can go in and back out and pull so that your tension is nice and even. And then in and back to the outside, to the center and the outside, the center and the outside, the center and the outside, and we're going to work that all the way across. Look at how beautiful that edge is. It's like you never had an edge. It's like you never had an opening. And so that's how I close the kitchen, or close our work using the Kitchener stitch technique. Except for we're not going actually into actual stitches like this. We're doing the loops, which are stitches, but they don't look the same as what further down the row is. But you get the idea. There we go. We're going to come all the way out to the other end, working in each of those loops. And I still have that loop to work, so I'm going to go into there and I'm going to work that loop. And then I'm going to tie off 1 knot and 2 knots. There you go. That's what it looks like. You're going to do that to your other side. And when you're done that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to close the bottom panels up as well. Okay, so first of all, go ahead and close the top of this one and then meet me back. There you go. We've got the second one done. Once you tied your piece off with 2 different knots, you can go ahead and pop your end into your work, pull it through, and cut it off. Do that for both pieces. And then we're going to close the bottom. There we go. Pop that into the corner. And down in through your work. This is the middle size needle that I'm using, and for this part I generally use the smaller needle. It's pointier, so it's sharper and it gets in there. I grabbed this one because it was closer, but if you buy these in the pack of 3, you'll find you'll get the most use out of the smallest one. There we go. So we got that one side done. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on the other side. thread your needle. Make sure that this is straight and that your seam here, that your row is straight. You don't want this twisted and have it like that. And then when you're finished, that takes away from the attention to detail. You want to make sure that when you're seaming this up, that you got your same row going all the way from the top to the bottom. This one I didn't go ahead and attach like we did that first one. So I'll do that right now. Right, like that. And so then what you're going to do is you're going to, these little loops here are a little bit tighter. This is where we did our cast, like our cast off with our crochet hook. So we're going to just go into the top of that stitch and we're going to go across to that first one there. And we're going to pull. Then we're going to go into that next one on that same side and come across. We're going to do this side a little bit differently. This join is already really nice, so we'll just leave it like that, and we're going to go across, just picking up the very top row. You'll see that this one crosses underneath this one comes over, take the one that's at the top, and the same on this side. Pick up those 2 strands and see how beautiful that is. So this one here is going underneath these 2 strands. Take the top 2 strands and the same with the one on that side. Then we're going to do the same all the way down the row. Fasten off, hide your ends. Do it for both pieces, and I'll see you back when you're done. Look how beautiful that looks. Once that's done and your ends are all hidden, you're going to take a piece of yarn that goes the length of your piece times 2. Okay? 1.5 is good, but do times 2 and you'll be sure. We're going to pop that on our needle. Just a single strand is all you need. We're going to do the mattress stitch. You're going to make sure this is the top row that we did together here. And this was the end of our project where we just finished sewing up. Make sure those same ends are together. Just looks nicer in the end. This piece right here where we just finished sewing up is going to be where our tail goes. So keep note of that. But we're going to put our 2 pieces together. We're going to find that natural side. And you want to look for the side. You want to give it even a half a turn for a row if you have to make sure that the wide part of your V, see there's where our stitch, is going to the left. So the wide part is here and the point of the V is going to the right. You're going to line that up with this side too, and you're going to make sure the same thing is on that one. We're going to pop our needle into our work just at the very bottom and join them just like that. We're going to pop that inside there. We're going to work in those stitches and up that row where the wide part of the V is going up. So I'm going to go into the very base there, and there's my first stitch, there's my second. I'm going to grab into the second and I'm going to pull that through. On this side, here's the base. I'm going to go into that stitch, pull up that middle part, and then pull up the second one, the bar that's in the middle of that second stitch. So we've got 2 bars. We've gone across 2 stitches. You can see where I'm coming out here in this stitch. You're going to go back into there, pick up that next bar and the next one. Go back up to the top. You see where we're coming out right here. You go back into that space, pick up 1 and 2. Come back down, and remember, we're staying on that same row. So smooth it out every 5 stitches or so that the wide part of the V is going to the top on both rows. Here's where I came out. I'm going to go pick up 2. So go across 2 stitches just like that. And we're going to keep doing that all the way up, going underneath those 2 bars. When I get halfway up, I'll do maybe 2 more. 1 and 2. Then you can go ahead. You can take your end tail and your one here and you just give it a pull. And you see how that brought that together into a seamless join that makes it your rows just line up perfectly, just in order, and you have no idea that there's actually a seam there. We're going to continue that up to the top. So if you have trouble finding that row, just look where you're coming out right here, and that's the row right there. You're going to pick up 2 and pick up 2. and 2, and 2. And 2, and 2, 1 and 2, oops, and go in where you came out, pick up 2 stitches until you get to the top. I'm just going to go 1 stitch here. And you can pinch where you ended off there and pull this. See how that's bringing it together nicely? And now you've joined your piece on this end. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to take that top stitch right there and go across to the top stitch right there. And then back into this one. And then I can knot it off and hide my ends. I'm going to knot this one off and hide my ends. Then what we're going to do is we're going to fold this. And we're going to do the same thing on this end, making sure that the wide part of the V is going to the left and to the left. Just like that. You're going to match your stitch up this side, tie it off, and you'll have a tube with an opening at both ends. Go ahead and do that. And when you have that done, come back and see me. Now that we have that done, this is what was our end where we did our slip stitch and chain 1. This was our more smooth end. We're going to now sew this top part together. So we're going to take our yarn, and if you don't have a long enough one to go across, to go 1.5 times the length of this, then tie off, hide your end, and start another one. But what we're going to do is we're going to go into this one just so that I can get that onto the side there, into the middle there. And what we're going to do is we're going to just pick up. You'll see a little stitch there. I'm going to just pick it up. There's my stitch. There's a V right there. That was from our previous stitching endeavors. We're just going to go and we're going to try to find a stitch and pick it up. Nothing fancy about this. I'm going to go across to this next one right here. Go right across, pick it up. Find the one across from it and pick it up. And we're just going to close it that way. Okay? Under the stitch here. And under the stitch over here, just going straight across, picking up that row. And we're just going to give it a nice finished edge. Working in that beautiful edge we created. So in essence, we're now changing it again, but it's giving us the ability to pick up a really nice stitch and continue to make it nice. Like, that's beautiful. Okay, so we're going to just continue across, going underneath that stitch, picking up the one right across from it, until we get to the end. There's got to be one down there. Let's pick that one up. And just finish it off the best way that you can. There we go. That's good. And you're going to tie another knot. Ay. That's what happens when you work with short strands. Then they get all funny. And we're going to tie one more knot and hide our tail. There we go. Pull that down with my thumb and into the work you go. We are now going to set this piece aside, and we're going to grab our 12 peg loom and some red yarn. We're going to use just a single strand of this red yarn, and we're going to make the comb for the top of the chicken's head. Put your slip knot onto your anchor peg. Just like that. We're going to do the drawstring cast on. So we're going to go behind peg 1 or in front, however you look at that. It's behind for me, and in front of the next, behind, in front, 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 and then again behind peg 1 and all the way around. Just wrapping it all the way around the front of all of those pegs. Then we're going to knit off every peg that has 2 loops, starting with this last peg, peg 12. There we go. Knit that off, then you can drop that. And we're going to knit off. And there you go. We've got our drawstring cast on complete. Now what we're going to do, friends, is we're going to push those down. I didn't put my little tool on this, but that's okay because we don't have that many rows to do. And we are going to E-wrap. So around our pegs, just like what we've done in previous pieces, and we're going to wrap and knit off. Taking the bottom loop over the top on every peg. And friends, you're going to do that for 10 rounds. E-wrap, knit off, E-wrap, knit off. Single strand. And when you have 10 rows done, I'll see you back. That's row 1. Push them down. After row 2 or 3, you can take your anchor peg and release it from here. And we're going to just continue on. Except for, don't forget to move your knot. In this particular piece, it's not as important because we're going to be manipulating the shape of the piece and you're not going to see it anyways. But just for habit's sake, it's always good to form a good habit that you will carry on through every piece that you make so that you don't forget. So I'm going to E-wrap and knit off. This is row 2. I'm going to do it for 10 rows. I'll see you when I get to the end of row 10. Having completed 10 rows, we are going to now take our yarn tail. We're going to wrap it around our loom twice and cut off that tail. Put that aside. We're going to grab our small needle and we're going to cast off with a drawstring cast off. I'm going to take these halfway down. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it. You can do it with a needle and you can do it with your loom pick. We're going to go between the last and the first peg, and then we're going to go underneath that loop on the first peg and pick it up. Go underneath the loop of the second peg and the third and the fourth. If you don't want to use a needle, you can just pop your yarn underneath the loop, go from the top into there, scoop it up, pull it through. Underneath the loop of the next one, go from the top down, scoop it up, pull it through. And you can start taking some of these off as it gets tight to give you a little bit of looser tension. I prefer to use the needle, but this is just 2 ways for you. There you go. You're going to go around, take them all off, and then you're right, meet me back. We have our piece almost off the loom. There we go. I'm going to set that aside. And isn't that great? That looks wonderful. What we're going to do now is take the one end and we're going to cinch it closed, making sure that you flatten out that top nicely. As you do so, put it back on your needle, your yarn tail on your needle. And we're going to just go around those top loops one time to reinforce. Just like that, picking them up, going around, and securing that end closed. Then I can just take 1 little strand or 2 strands there, tie a simple knot. My yarn tail here is too long. And pull it through. Then you're going to take that yarn tail and you're going to go through the very center that you just created and out the other side, making sure you don't snag the sides as you go to the inside. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to do the same thing to that other side, making sure that this tail stays out because we have to bring these two pieces together, okay? Pulling that down so it's nice and snug. I'm going to now go around the top layer of stitches here just one time, just to secure them. Get that other tail out of the way there. There we go. And from there, I'm going to take those two tails. I'm going to cut this one that I was just using, cut the shorter one of the two, even shorter. And then you can go ahead and you can tie a knot to bring the both ends nice and close together to form a cute little circle. There we go. I'm going to again cut this one shorter. Looks like I need new scissors. Those ones are getting dull. They've lasted me a long time. And I get them at Dollarama and I love them. They're so sharp when you first get them, but they eventually need to be replaced, but they're cheap, so they're easy to do. You're going to take this up to the side. And when you get it up to the side, you're going to anchor it with a knot so that when you pull on this, if I pull on this now, it's not going to gather it in there. Okay, you're going to take it so that your yarn tail is on the side and you're going to fold it in half just like that. Yarn tail on the side. Then you're going to take that yarn strand and you're going to go across and you're going to seam the top, just picking up one strand and making a simple stitch right across. Making your circle into a semicircle. Almost there. There we go. Into that little corner. Tie off. And if you have a short strand, you're going to tie off, hide your ends, and add a new one, which is what I did off camera here because mine was too short to do this next part, okay? So from there, we're going to take our yarn tail and we're going to go along the bottom here. The bottom is where our little center here is. And I'm just going to feed it through to the middle. And right out through that little center. Pulling my tail through, but I want to make sure I don't compromise this. So I'm going to go ahead and just tie it off to secure. From there, you are going to take your yarn tail and you're going to go right around the center, right around, and come back down to the base. Put your needle through. And then you're going to pull. And when you pull, you're bringing that in. It looks like a little heart. And you're going to go again, take your hand, put it in your hand, and just wrap it around that same place and anchor it to the base. Put that knot down with your nail. I'm going to feed this over to either side, doesn't matter. I'm going to just come over here. So here's the center, here's the end. We're going to go in the center of there. I'm going to feed this over. Anchor it with a knot. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wrap this around, all the way around, then pick up some stitches at the bottom here. Pull. Holding this kind of straight as you do so, and then around one more time. Anchoring it with a knot at the bottom. Very, very simple technique that we're doing here. Okay. Now we're going to feed that back in, and we're going to go over to the other side and do the same thing. Always anchor it so when you pull on it, it doesn't gather from where you just were. Go around. Pick up a stitch at the bottom. Pull. Make sure that that's could go over just a little bit more this way. So if you can loosen that, just push it over just a little bit. Doesn't matter if it's over top of a row rather in between. I'm gonna hold that with my finger on the back here. Now give it a go. Just keeps wanting to slip down, but that's okay. We're gonna just go with it. And then we're gonna do it again into that base. Knot off. This time you're gonna do a double knot. Pushing that down with your thumb, then take it out to the side. Okay, and from there you're gonna put one more anchor knot. I call them an anchor knot. It's because if I don't, like I've said before, if you don't put the knot in there, then when you pull on this, it's gonna gather it in here. And then you've got your little comb. We're gonna set that aside. We're gonna grab our 12 peg loom and our gray yarn. We're gonna make the tail. For the tail, we're gonna go back to using a double strand. I've attached my slip knot to my anchor peg. We're going to do an E-wrap cast on. Just how we've been doing. All around those pegs. Okay, push them down. And go around again for our cast on row to be complete. And we're going to knit off. All the way around, and then friends, you're going to E-wrap and knit off 7 rows. That's it. Knit off, E-wrap, 7 rows. And when you have that done, you're going to come back and we're going to cast off together. So that's my cast on row. I'm going to now do 7 E-wrap rows. Having completed my 7 rows, we are now going to cast off the same way we cast it off on our gray piece using our crochet hook, okay? So we're going to get under that loop of the 10th peg, pardon me, the 12th peg. This is a 12 peg loom. And we're going to, can't get my hand in there like I did on my other loom. We're going to yarn over and go through that loop, okay? Then we're going to take off the loop of our next peg. So get under there with your crochet hook. Take it off. You're going to slip stitch it through the loop that's on your hook. Then you are going to chain 1. Going over to the next loop, we're going to remove that from our peg. Slip stitch it through the loop that's on your hook. Chain 1. I'll do one more with you and you're going to do that all the way around your loom. Going underneath this stitch, you're going to take it off your peg. You're going to put it through the first loop that's on your hook. That's a slip stitch. And you're going to chain 1. Do that to all 12 stitches and I'll see you back when you're done. Having completed that last one, I'm going to now, before what we did is we took our needle and we closed these two together. And you can do it that way or you can do it this way. I'm just going to take my hook, and I could have done this with the other one too, and I never thought of it till now. You're going to go under that first stitch and you're going to yarn over, bring it through and slip stitch to join there. Then you're going to yarn over and bring it through and cut off a fairly long tail for sewing. And pull that through. And now you've joined the first to the last peg with your crochet hook rather than with a needle. So you can go back and look at it from the way we did this one if you would prefer to use a needle, okay? And then for this, generally for the other one, we tightened this seam up, but we don't have to on this one. All we have to do is take our needle and make sure that this is tied off in a nice firm knot, because this side is going to be hidden into the body of our bird, okay? So I'm going to just knot this off so I know it's not going anywhere. And then cut it off. So this piece we will not see, this side here, okay? But for this side, we are going to go ahead and we are going to put this on our needle and we're going to seam this one closed just like we did the bigger piece. Going underneath that strand that's on the top and over to this next one. And then coming back in this direction. And you're going to go ahead right across to the other side, tie off a knot, and then grab your 12 peg loom again and your yellow yarn, whatever color you want for your beak, and we'll work on that piece next. Then we will do our assembly. Taking our yellow yarn and putting it onto our anchor peg, we are going to E-wrap cast on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 pegs. We are then gonna go around that 6th peg. So go around the 6th peg, in between, come around the other way, and we're going to E-wrap back. Just like that. Now you're gonna knit off all your pegs. And 5, push them down. We're gonna go ahead and E-wrap peg 1. So go back like that, and then in between and E-wrap 4, 5, and now peg 6. That was our turning peg before, but now we're going to E-wrap it and work it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you'll notice I'm using a single strand of yarn again. We just need a little tiny beak. I'm going to take that yarn and I'm going to go around the 6th peg, in between, and back. This is row 2. And knit off. And push down. Come back around. And then in between. And this is row 3. And if you need it even slower than that, you can go ahead up into the top right corner of this video. You can click on that little gear and you can slow it down. Okay, now we're going to come back around this last peg, in between and around. I believe this is row 4. Row 4. And you're going to do that for 6 rounds. Okay, so you're almost done. We're going to do row 4, row 5, and row 6, and then I'll meet you back. Having completed row 6, we're going to do the same cast off that we've been doing. So you're going to go underneath, peg 1, yarn over, bring it through the loop. Well, you could have taken it off first. Then you're going to go into peg 2. Going this direction is harder, just so you know. You're going to slip stitch, chain 1. Because we're going the opposite way that we should be going with this hook. Then, oops. Then you're going to go ahead and take off that next stitch. See, I can't do it backwards very easily. Take it off. Slip stitch it. Chain 1. Take off the next one. Sorry, folks. This is a gong show. Slip stitch it and chain 1. And into the next one. I'm sure my camera angles are horrible. Slip stitch it, chain 1. And the last one, I'm just going to pull that off like that. Put my hook into there, slip stitch, and chain 1. Yes, I found that very hard. And there we go. We have that edge done. From there, I'm going to pull that tail through, cutting off a good length there for sewing. Now, some of you might be yelling and saying, you shouldn't have done it that way because that was totally backwards. But I'll be honest with you, it's the only way I know how to do it when I'm doing a flat panel is to go backwards like that. I guess I could have done another row and then come this way and ended on 7 rows. But you know what? That looks really decent. So I'm not upset with that. That'll be great. It just was a little awkward. If it would have been on a bigger loom with way more pegs, I might have figured out a different way to do it. Okay, we're going to take this tail, the short tail, and we're going to just weave it in and out, hiding it in our work here, just so we can cut it off. Taking this other one, putting it onto our needle. We're going to stretch out this piece a little bit, and we're going to fold it in half, just like that. Fold it in half lengthwise. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to go across to this side. I'm going to anchor it, and I'm going to sew it. This time I'm going, because it's so loopy, I'm going over and then into the stitch. Over and into that next stitch. And you're going to do that all the way down to the end. And you're right, you're going to anchor it with a knot. And once you get to the end, you're going to just tie off. Okay, so now we have a little rectangle piece, and from there you're going to fold it in half this way. Okay, so we folded it up. Now we're going to fold it in half the other way, and we're going to sew across that top seam. This time you can go back and forth like this because it's not as loopy. Tying off a knot to secure. Okay, and there we have our little nose. That's our beak. That's what's going to go at the front. This will be at the back, just like that. Okay, so now we're going to set that aside. You're going to grab your eyes. Now, I believe these are 8 or 10 millimeters. I don't have the package sizing available to tell you, but I think they're 8 or a 10. You choose whatever you feel is appropriate for the size of chicken that you're making. I'm going to put my hand into the opening here, and we're going to go up to the top here. We're going to go down 1, 2, 3 rows, and 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. 3 rows, 4 stitches. And we're going to pop that eye into there. Where's the back of that eye? And you're gonna want to go through actual stitches here, not through the, there it is, not through the sides here, through the laddering. You're going to go through the actual stitch, and you'll have a way better join. Then I'm going to pop that on. I put these little round things on upside down so that the bowl part of it is up, and then you can put some glue in there, some hot glue gun or whatever glue of choice that you want to use. I'm not going to do that right now and take time on my video. I'm not giving this to a child, so we'll be okay. And it is nice and secure, but that is an option for you, okay? So we went 1, 2, 3, and 4 stitches in. Do that on the other side, make it even, and I'll see you back. Once the eyes are in, you're going to grab your fiber fill. I like to pull it all apart before I actually stick it in there. And we're going to begin to stuff our little chicken. And you see, you can't see the stuffing through because we've got a double layer there. And it's wonderful. Getting it up into the corner there, down into the corner here. And the trick is not to overstuff. There we go. So when you've got it nicely filled and you just use your fingers and go like this up, you'll see it's just starting to come out of the top. That's when I think it's ready to be closed. So we have now closed this seam this way. We're going to close this one the opposite way. So it's going to get closed. Let me just give you another visual here. It's going to be that way. So this one is this way, that one's that way. But before we go ahead and close it, we're going to take our tail. This is where we have the opening. We're going to pop that in there, but you're going to do it, friends, so that you have the corner against the side here. So take your one seam against the side there. Your point here is lined up with your seam. So we've got the point lined up with the seam. We've got our one corner down. This other side, you're gonna push it down until you have that looking like a perfect triangle, just like that. That's why you don't need to have that one closed. And if this is a lot longer, that doesn't matter either, because you're gonna make it into the right length by pushing this side down as far as it needs to go to line it up like that. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take my needle with the yarn on it, I'm going to attach it here, and I'm going to sew it across. I'm going to go through the top into the center there. I found it easier to start in the center, so that's where we're going to start. And then I'm going to just reinforce that one more time, right where it needs to be. The eyes are right here. And then, as you can see, my finished edge here is going to meet the seam here. And then from there, I will move this one in until I have that perfect triangle shape that I need with my point lining up with my seam. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to just sew across to one side. And picking up that corner, coming up, and I'm going to just go around like that just to secure that edge. And I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go to this end, and I'm going to go around to secure that edge, pushing that down so I have a perfect triangle. Having that secured nicely, so I like where it's positioned, I'm going to now take this seam right here. Here's my seam, or you can even measure it up to this point here. I'm going to put that right into place there, and then I'm going to come over. Here's where I ended. I'm going to come over and pick up that stitch that's right across. And then I know that that's in the right place. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to seam this side closed. I just went over on that one stitch just to secure, but now I'm going to go and do what I've been doing before, picking up the top stitch, the top half of the stitch. Okay, so we've got the two strands that are coming over top of this one. I'm going to pick up this one and then come across to this one and sew it up. Then you're going to knot that off. That side's done. I'm going to trail this in. I have that nice and even. And then I'm going to come back in, go back across. This tail gets reinforced once again. And we're going to go down and through. And we're going to come across till we have this side closed, knot it off and hide our ends. It looks great so far. We're going to take the comb, the red part, and we're going to put that onto our needle. And this we're going to start at the top corner here. Now we're going to shape the eyes here too so it doesn't look so much like a fish. Mind you, this is a nice fish pattern if you want to make a fish for a kid. And we're going to put that at the very top in the center, right up to the corner here. And we're going to sew that on. And how I'm going to do that, here's where my center is. I'm going to go in and pick up a stitch in that manner. Then I'm going to go underneath and I'm going to go across, pick up a stitch. Then where I came out here, I'm going to follow that same row down, gives me stability, and I'm going to go down 2 stitches. And then come back up and sew on the comb. Pulling that really tight. Go back in. Pick up 2 stitches. You can do 1 if you're more secure, but I've done 2 on other chickens that I've done, and it's fine. And then I'm going to come across, pick across there. On my circular knitted chickens, I pick up 2 stitches here too, and it's worked totally fine. You can check out my channel. I have crochet on there. I have circular knitting. And if you have not got a circular knitting machine and that interests you, I've got tons of patterns on my channel and I'm adding to it all the time. It is so much fun, friends. I have more machines than I need. I have the Addies and the Centros, but I really, really enjoy them. And I was making mostly my videos on those, and then I decided I gotta pull up my looms again because I was missing them. I love to loom knit too. As we know, it's just as addicting. It's a fun, fun thing to do. So I'm gonna continue that down. I'm almost there. Picking up under 2 gives it the stability that it needs to hold it in place, to anchor it in place. And I'm gonna do 1 more, but I have 1 more stitch here. I'm going to go back into the same space that I just did, but I'm going to go the other way. Then I'm going to grab the very top stitch right there. And I'm going to go back into that space and up to the center. And I'm going to pull so that I can round off that edge. I don't want to have a, see when I pulled how that rounded off into there, and you don't have a sharp corner. Now I can just go ahead and knot it off here and hide my end. Once you do that, grab your little beak and we'll place that next. Taking our beak, we're going to, here's where our opening is at the base here, okay? We've got our little circle. We're going to take this down to the other side here. And we're going to just close up this opening right here. Just go right across and close it up. Taking that piece with our opening, the round part of our opening here, we'll go at the top, just like this. We're going to sew that on to the seam there. In order to do that, I need to take this back to that corner. I'm going to place it on that center seam there in line with my eye. So here's where my eyes are. The base of my eye is on this row right here. So I'm going to put the tip of that nose right above it. So if this is the row that the bottom of the eye is, I'm going to go up just a little bit. Just a little bit, just like that. And then we're going to take our piece and we're going to sew it on. So I'm going to pick up part of that seam, attach it there, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just pick up where that seam is, pick up a base of my nose, and continue going up until it's attached. And through there. Our little chicken is coming together. Once you have it secured at the top, it's like that. I'm going to then go down the side. I'm just going to, instead of having that a flat edge, I'm going to make it a little bit rounder. So I'm going to take just a little strand from the side there, and then I'm going to go off just a little, right close to the seam there, but I'm going to just pick up just one little layer. I'm going to pull that down. I'm going to take that next little section and then go right beside that stitch, pick up just one little strand by the seam and pull it down. And we're going to do that again, just shaping it, giving it a little bit rounder of a shape, then straight down. Pick up a little bit right close to the seam and pull it down. See how that's rounding it off already? Okay, as opposed to that straight edge there. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go right to the corner here. I'm going to push that down just a little bit. Then I'm going to do it right up the side as I just did on this side. There we go. Our chicken's beak is perfect. We're going to knot off. And hide our yarn tail. Cut it off. Grab yourself a piece of gray yarn. We're just going to shape the eye area a little bit better. Grab some gray yarn and your needle, and we'll do the last part together. Taking that yarn strand, we are now going to go under the eye. So here's one row, here's the second row, and we're going to go behind it. So if you follow that eye straight down and then go 1, 2, 3 stitches over, let's go 2 stitches over. So 1, 2 rows down and 1, 2 stitches over. You're going to pop your needle into there, and you're going to do the same thing with this. 1, 2 stitches down, 2 rows down and 2 stitches over. Pull that through, leaving a tail. Then you're going to go up to this next row, just right straight up at an angle and come through. And I'm going right straight up at an angle to this one. So I've gone at an angle across 2 rows. Then I'm going to cut these off just so they're easier to work with. We're going to take those 2 yarn strands and we're going to tie a knot. See how that pulls in the head and makes it look like a chicken's head, but you don't want it to pucker on this side. So if you look at it and it's too tight, then you know you need to loosen it just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie that knot off. Then you're going to put this back on your needle. It's a very simple technique that shapes the head and looks wonderful. And we're going to go into that same space, go under your stuffing, out another location, and cut it off. And there you go. We have our little chicken. Adorable. So there she is, just sitting outside, soaking in the sun, even though we just had a nice little rain. Anyways, thanks again, my friends, so much for joining me in this tutorial. I truly do mean it when I say I appreciate you, and thank you for being a part of my channel community. It means a lot to me. Please don't forget to show me your makes in my Facebook group, Koala Knits and Knacks, which I will have the link posted in the description box below. And when you're sharing in other groups, please always add the link as well so others can find my channel too. I would appreciate that as well. So thanks again, friends. Take care and have a blessed day.